Hello, YouTube divers. This is WaterDive 122, and I want to welcome you all to another episode of the podcast for high school sports all across Western North Carolina. So, apparently, I've been absent from this series for several months, for reasons that kind of personal, like, behind the scenes. But we've got a lot of stuff to catch up on here today. First off, we're going to be recapping Brevard's 3-0 win over the Hendersonville Bearcats, completing the regular season series sweep. And, of course, other volleyball stuff and football stuff as well. We're also going to be taking a look at Brevard's upcoming football matchup on senior night against the Patton Panthers and recap their homecoming game against the Chase Trojans. So we've got a lot of stuff here to cover. So let's start off with some volleyball news, shall we? Senior night over at Brevard High Gymnasium, and Brevard, the Blue Devils, came in with a record of 13-4. Basically, what's been happening is that Brevard got swept by ACA. They lost 3-2, and they lost 3-2 to both Polk County and TC Robertson. So going into this game, Brevard definitely has had a lot of momentum, especially considering the fact that they did sweep the West Henderson Falcons. And I was actually at the home game between Brevard and West Henderson, and let me tell you, it was a fantastic game from start to finish. Lots of fireworks scored, lots of offensive fireworks, lots of momentum swings, and all that fun stuff. But Brevard ended up winning, completing the rare, and I mean rare, season series sweep over the Falcons. But we're not going to talk about West Henderson. We're going to talk about Hendersonville. So going into this game, Hendersonville came in with a record of 6-10, and Brevard, of course, was 13-4. The Devils made sure that they used their home field advantage to the fullest extent. They, for the most part, dominated the Bearcats. They won the first set in pretty convincing fashion. The other two sets were a little bit more competitive. But at the end of the day, Brevard got the dub. They're now 14-4. Still second place in the division. They have a huge game against Polk County on Thursday. A game in which I am unfortunately not able to attend due to P.F.H.S.A.A.W.N.C night over Brevard because I'm still trying to get into college. Sorry about my voice. The game really did a number on my voice because not only was I cheering my heart out like I always do, I was also invited to announce the players, and of course, for us, I got very, very loud. So, so I apologize if my voice sounds a little bit funny, but it is what it is, I guess. And now, more volleyball news. Brevard is definitely in a good position to make it back to the playoffs. They are in a good position to win the division. All they need to do is beat Polk County, which is easier said than done, because Polk County is the best team in North Carolina 2A volleyball, which is problematic considering that we did lose to them earlier in the season. So that's a little bit problematic, but I do think that the home court advantage that Brevard has will be just enough to win. It's good. Knowing the Wolverines and how good they are this year, they're definitely not going to make it easy. But I'm going to say Brevard wins 3-2 in a very, very, very high-scoring affair. So there's that. Now let's talk some football, shall we? So Brevard football was on a rather interesting type of swing. Last time we talked about them, they knocked off the Pisgah Bears 21-14. Then they got their butts kicked against Robbinsville and Asheville, and then they blew a big lead against Irwin, and then they proceeded to win their next two games, albeit they were both against weaker competition. They beat East Rutherford 40-6, but then again, who doesn't? Madison. And then they beat R.S. Central 44-6, which is my candidate for the most surprising victory of the year, for Brevard at least. Either that or the Pisgah game, but right now I'm mostly leaning towards R.S. Central because the Hilltoppers could not get anything going against us. And knowing the mid-tier team that we are, and, R.S. Central being on more or less the same level, I thought that this was going to be a pretty even game, kind of like how it was last year. However, Brevard managed to destroy them at Brevard Memorial Stadium. It was an absolute massacre. As I said, the Devils won 44-6 to even out their record. Then they had their bye, and then they had a homecoming showdown against the Chase Trojans in a game where Abriana Deschantiers ended up winning homecoming queen. Congratulations to her. And of course, one of my drum majors, Mason Parlier, won homecoming king. So there's that. And the game really turned out the way I expected it to. Chase won 42-14 in a game that, score-wise, it looked like that it was yet another Chase blowout. But Brevard actually kept it close for the majority of the game. The Devils went down 21-0 early, and it looked like that Chase was going to shut us out. Then we scored 2 touchdowns. Colt Swicegood throwing 2 touchdown passes to Henry Ogle and to Dylan Galloway, respectively, the latter of which was actually wide open. But then after that, we went into the halftime with the Trojans leading 21-14, and I thought, maybe this could be interesting. Then halftime came, all the shenanigans and all that stuff happened there. The homecoming ceremony happened, all that jazz. Then Chase scored on their opening drive of the second half, and then Brevard got the ball back. They were driving, and then the most controversial and game-changing play basically happened. So it was third down, right? We had the ball inside, probably around the 1 or 2 yard line. We ran the ball, and our runner got hit late. And there was a flag, and it was a personal foul against the Trojans. So in normal circumstances, then that would mean a fresh set of downs. However, for some weird reason that nobody knows, the refs never changed the set of downs. So it ended up being 4th down, and Chase stuffed our running back, Jacob Stockton, at the 1 yard line, and we ended up turning over on downs. And 2 plays later, Chase running back Jalen Rudisell scored a 90-something yard touchdown. That was the real game changer right there. Because had Brevard scored a touchdown, it would have likely been a much closer game. I don't think that it would have been enough for the Devils to prevail, because Chase is arguably the best football team in 2A right now, or at least in the mountains. Like, you still have teams like Shelby, Reedsville, all those teams. But mountain-wise, like from the area where I'm covering, where a podcast for high school sports all across Western North Carolina usually looks at, Chase is without a doubt the best team in 2A. If not the best team in this area. Like, holy crap. And the worst thing about it is that they didn't even have Marquise McCombs, their leading rusher and the state's leading rusher and one of the top high school rushers in the country. I'm not exaggerating that, by the way. He did not play against us. He is out for the rest of the year. I believe I was told that he suffered an MCL sprain or something along the lines of that. But regardless, he's out for the year. But knowing Chase's brick wall of an O-line, their running game absolutely did not stop. Really, both teams ran the ball really well in that game, in my opinion. But Chase, obviously more better than us. But hey, you win some, you lose some, you know? So now Brevard sits at 3-4. They're right dead center in the middle in their division. They're not as good as teams like Chase or possibly Hendo, but they're not as bad as teams like Patton or East Rutherford, and we're going to talk about Patton right now. So the Patton Panthers come into this game. They've only have one win, and it was really a non-convincing win against the East Rutherford Cavaliers. The Panthers won 38-27 in that game. I'm honestly expecting Brevard to get a win here. I'm going to say Brevard has the potential of scoring over 50 points in this game. However, I do think by the time the second half, specifically like midway through the third quarter, by that time Brevard will already have a big enough lead to where they do the mercy rule. Now, knowing how inconsistent this Brevard football team is, if they struggle against the Patton Panthers, then they are going to have some serious problems down the line. Because next week we take on the Hendersonville Bearcats, and the week after that we go to Polk County to take on the Polk County Wolverines, both of which are away games. And let me tell you, if you don't make a complete game, and if you can't close it out against Patton, then you are going to have a massive struggle against Hendersonville and or Polk, because both of those teams are significantly better than Patton, and both of those teams are basically the two other teams that are right behind Chase in the Mountain 7 Foothills Conference title. Chase does play Polk County this week, and I do think the Trojans will win that game. And they already beat the Hendersonville Bearcats earlier. And they already beat the Hendersonville Bearcats last week. So really, this is Brevard's time to execute it and get back into the swing of things. Because if they want to finish within the top 3 this year, then they got to win at least 2 of these next 3 games. And the most realistic wins that I see them having within these next 3 weeks are against Patton and Polk County. Polk County, they're a solid team. They're not great, but they're solid. Angus Weaver is still one of my favorite running backs in the area. Their passing game leaves a lot to be desired. Their defense has left a lot to be desired. But yeah, grade A Angus Weaver, he's one heck of a runner. And he's another one of those players like Joe Powell of Brevard last year that, again, he can play multiple positions. He can play quarterback, he can play running back, he can play defense, he can play special teams as well. But yeah, needless to say, if Brevard wants to have a chance of finishing within the top 3 of the conference, then they're going to have to win at minimum at least 1 or 2 games. And really, if we don't beat Patton, then there's going to be major problems, not just with me as a fan, not just with the rest of the Brevard faithful, but within the locker room, within the practices, within the coaching, within the players, within the motivation, whether it's anything possible from physical to mental to futuristic stuff. All that fun jazz. But however, I do see Brevard taking care of business against the Patton Panthers. They are good enough to win against weaker competition, which is totally fine considering that you're pretty much in a rebuilding mode throughout the year. I do think Luke Coleman is a good head coach. Yes, he's had some moments where I've just been so infuriated. I mean, take a look at the Irwin game, for example. But needless to say, he's doing well, considering the disastrous year the Devils had last year. I definitely see a lot of improvement within this team, and I do like the game plans he's given out. The only question is, will the Devils be able to keep this up? And honestly, there's a good possibility that they will. Now, with that in mind, let's go ahead and cut to the chase. I think Brevard is going to win 45-21 over the Patton Panthers. The only reason why I'm giving Patton 21 points as opposed to 7 or heck even 10, mainly because I do feel like that in the second half Brevard will have their foot out off the gas and it'll basically just be garbage time. Kind of like how the RS Central game ended. I mean, Brevard was already up 44-0, then they took their foot off the gas, and they let RS Central score on the final drive of the game. I do think that it's going to be a little bit similar here, but except at this point Brevard already has, Brevard's up 45-14 going into the fourth quarter, and really there's nothing much else to play for, so Brevard just plays conservative, and they let Patton score one more touchdown, and, that's all she wrote. Now, if Brevard wins this game, Then they got to go prepare for Eric Rashid and the Hendersonville Bearcats. And then they got to go and play Angus Weaver and the Polk County Wolverines. But yeah, Patton's a winnable game. Hendersonville obviously will give us some trouble because it's Hendersonville. And then Polk County could be winnable as well. So, in theory, I have Brevard winning their next 2 games. They finished with a record of 5-4. Definitely a more improved. No, I'm sorry, 5-5. No, 6-5. I'm so sorry. No, I'm sorry, 5-5. Yeah, I was right the first time. 5-5. So I have the Devils finishing 5-5 on the year, dead center at 500. They may make the playoffs. I have no idea. But yeah, needless to say, 5-5, much improved year. Alright, so with that said, that concludes this edition of Magic Metal Mondays. Thank you so much for watching, my fellow YouTube divers. This is Water Dive 122 signing out. Ready to dive into more fun on YouTube. Thanks for watching.